Hey everyone, this is Player 1 and I'm coming to you with a first impressions review of God Eater 2 Rage Burst. If you know about the series, you know more or less where this is coming from. It's similar to the Monster Hunter games with a little bit more story and a couple of different elements. This one specifically takes place 3 years after the original with a whole new set of characters. Alright, let's get the obvious out of the way. It really doesn't look great. It is a Vita port to PS4, but still, it's a little disappointing to see the graphics kind of that funky sometimes. The sound is okay. There are some moments where it just feels compressed. Maybe that's because of the porting from the Vita, but it's alright. The voice acting for the game is not my favorite. The English subs are at best, and you are basically a silent protagonist throughout the game. Now the gameplay is pretty good. It's fun. If you played the first God Eater, you know what to expect. It really is the best part of the game. Combat can be fun, although it is a little repetitive. There are some different options you can take and different playstyles, so it really can adhere to what different people like. There is something new this time around called Blood Arts, which is basically a new way to enhance or augment certain attacks and powers you already have. The Devour skill is back and you can use this to get some items or do a lot of damage to your enemies. That's always a fun thing, but the little tricky thing about that is you have to use strategy for that, because if you're not careful you can get attacked by the enemies while you're trying to devour them. Like we talked about before, the graphics aren't great. One of the reasons why this really stands out to me isn't just the way it looks, is the fact that it's locked at 30 frames per second on the PS4 and you still see frame dips. I think at this point with graphics like these, there really shouldn't be any frame dips. I understand a little bit, but I've only played a couple hours, maybe about 3 or 4 hours, and I've seen quite a bit of slowdown, especially if there's a lot of enemies on screen. The pause menu doesn't really exist like you would think. If you want to go into your inventory or use an item, the game doesn't stop, it continues. So you have to kind of fumble your way through a live pause menu. So just keep that in mind. That can be a little bit of an annoyance, but you get used to it eventually. The levels are repetitive. Like I said, the graphics aren't great, and just the level design, it just looks like an older generation game. Now you have to keep in mind, this kind of game is all about repetition, so you're gonna have to find items to continue the story, and if you don't have them, you go back and repeat levels and kill the same monsters over and over again. So you do have to get used to that. You have to like that. If you're coming from the original God Eater, this is going to be the same thing for you. If you're new to the genre or this specific series, just know what you're getting into. One cool thing that there is plenty of customization. Not just the costumes you're wearing, but also things like weapon powers and most impressively the bullets. So your gun bullets can be augmented to have different area effects and different elements based on whatever you want. I think that's kind of cool. I'm not sure I've seen that in a lot of other games. I should mention that even though the costumes are customizable, it's just cosmetic. They don't change your armor or any kind of power up. That all comes from your weapon. Now something cool offered is the crossplay option. Co-op is where this game really shines. It's fun to get online and play with other people, and you can go through the entire story with a friend and experience the story together and play the mission. So that's kind of cool. The one thing you do have to consider, as you can see here, I've been here for a couple minutes and I haven't found the match. So even though co-op is great, just from my first impressions of the first couple hours on the day of release, there's not that many people playing. I can only imagine with time that will decrease more and more. So that's something to think about. Now you can play the entire campaign alone and still have fun, but the real draw of it, that co-op play, may be an issue unless you have friends that you know you can set up a game with. So what's the verdict? Well, if you've played the original God Eater and you loved it, this is a game for you. However, I highly recommend you pick it up cheap. The asking price for full price right now is still a little high for what you're getting. The graphics aren't great, it's pretty repetitive, the gameplay, and there's not much difference between the original God Eater and God Eater 2. From what I've seen of the story so far, it's interesting in the sense it keeps things moving along, but it's not very deep. If you love this series, go ahead and pick it up. I do recommend you just wait a little bit, wait for a significant sale. One good thing it does have, apart from co-op that I didn't mention, is that there's definitely a lot of gameplay. You can see you'll be playing this game for a while. So if you love the gameplay, you'll like it. If the gameplay is okay for you, then that's not going to help you much because it is very repetitive. Alright guys, those are just my 2 cents. This is the first impression. If you guys have any comments, let me know below. Maybe I'll do a review once I finish the game. Hope to hear from you guys soon.